The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
I crashed onto the ground at my job before I even realized I was going down. One moment I was just looking at a data sheet. The very next, my sight just turned completely white and I heard someone scream my name like I was fadding away. When I finally came to, feeling a tube pulling at my skin, a nurse told me softly, "We reached out to your folks. Nobody is coming." I tried to tell myself there was a good reason for it, maybe some traffic or they didn't see the call or anything else. Then I looked at my cell. My sister, Brianna, had put up a photo where everyone was smiling. It was a family day without any of the trouble. As I lay there all by myself, I didn't realize that this faint was just the first sign of everything falling apart. My name is Chloe, and for most of my life I kept telling myself that my relatives weren't the best, but they were still my family. I said those words to myself over and over like people say prayers, just hoping they would feel real if I repeated them enough. Growing up, the house was always a lot louder because of Brianna. She had this special spark that everyone noticed, the teachers, relatives, neighbors. They would say she was going to be successful, and then they'd look at me like I was just a temporary person standing next to her. I wasn't jealous of her. At least that's what I kept saying to myself. I figured out early on that if I just kept quiet, helped out, and acted responsible, things stayed peaceful at home. The rule was pretty basic. She needed to be the center of attention. I needed to stay out of the way. Even after we grew up, that situation never changed. Stephen and Diane still got really happy whenever she walked in. They still bragged about what she could do, and they still told me I had to be the understanding one. They liked to remind me that she was under a lot of stress. She had big goals. She needed help. And somehow that help always came out of my own paycheck. Every single week, without ever missing once, I sent them $750. They told me it kept them from going under, that it wouldn't be forever, and that I was the one keeping the family safe. I chose to believe them because believing was less painful than facing the truth. I was the one picked to be the helper, the person they could count on, the one who wasn't allowed to say no. My living space showed exactly how my life was, small, dark, and very basic. There were bills piled up on the table next to some food I'd warmed up, vitamins I always forgot to take, and a sweater that was always hanging on the same chair. Some nights I'd just sit by the window and watch folks walking home with bags of food or laughing on the sidewalk, and I'd wonder what it was like to be someone that people actually wanted to come home to. My job didn't make things any better. Doing office work in a tiny space meant working late, having too many chores and always being pushed to be perfect. I got way too good at ignoring how tired I was. Most days I just ate my lunch right at my desk, telling myself I'd get some rest later. But later never showed up. There was always another sheet to fill out, another deadline to hit, or another sign that everyone needed me except for the people I was giving everything to. Still, I tried to stay positive. When Stephen and Diane didn't call for a few days, I told myself they were just busy. When Brianna forgot my birthday one more time, I just laughed it off. When I felt that tightness in my chest and my hands started shaking while I was typing, I talked myself into thinking that everyone felt that way. But the real truth was much quieter and harder to face. I was running on nothing, I had no money left, I was starving for some affection, and I was still trying to prove I deserved even a little bit of care. So when I fainted at work, a part of me wasn't even shocked. What really shocked me was what happened after that, and what my family decided to do in that moment. And even then I had no clue that the collapse wasn't the breaking point at all. It was only the start of it. When they let me leave the hospital 2 days later, I walked out real slow, and the sun felt almost weird on my skin. The nurse said goodbye and told me I really needed to chill out and stay away from stress. I just shook my head like I actually had a life where I could do that. Out on the street, the buses were making loud noises and people were walking fast with their cold coffees, not even knowing I was coming back to a world that just kept moving without me, especially my family. While I was heading home, I looked at my phone again, staring at that picture Brianna posted with the bright filter and her big smile, and that caption, "Family Day without the drama." It wasn't just some joke. It was like she was telling everyone exactly where I stood or where I didn't. I looked at the comments where people said her hair and outfit looked great. Diane had left a heart emoji. Stephen wrote, "What a great day." That part really hurt, a great day. While their daughter was in a hospital bed with a tube in her arm and blood pressure that actually scared the nurse. That night Stephen and Diane finally sent a text, but it wasn't to ask how I was doing or about the fainting or any tests. Diane wrote, "Make sure you send the 750 this week. We're counting on you, and don't bring your job stress over here. Brianna has enough to deal with already." I stared at those words for so long that the phone screen went dark. Not one word about the hospital. Not even a fake "hope you're okay." Just that same demand for cash, expecting me to pay for their comfort while I was falling apart. I really wanted to say no. I wanted to tell them I couldn't do it anymore. But I couldn't move my fingers. Old habits are like heavy chains, so I sent the money even though my hands were shaking the whole time. I felt something inside me getting tight like a warning sign. The next week I went back to the office. My work friends were being nice in that weird way people act when someone's been sick. This girl Megan pulled me over and said, "You really scared us. You hit your desk when you fell. Are you sure you're ready for all this work?" I lied and said I was fine, just tired. But I wasn't fine at all. I could feel the exhaustion deep inside my body, making my nights long and my brain foggy during the day. Small jobs felt way heavier. Small things people said hurt more. Every time my phone vibrated, I jumped, thinking it was another order from home. One morning, a colleague at work walked by and told me I looked really pale. I just laughed it off, but on the inside I was falling apart. It felt like I was in a room full of smoke and couldn't find the fire. Then something changed, not with a big fight, but with a quiet talk that changed everything. I was getting coffee near where I live when I saw a face I knew. It was Martha, who lives next to Brianna. She was the type of person who knew everything about everyone without even trying. She tilted her head and said, "I haven't seen Brianna around much lately. Is everything okay with the house?" I was confused and asked, "The house?" She nodded and spoke quietly, saying, "I thought you'd know. The paper problems, the loan. Your name showed up on one of those legal notices. I figured you were helping her with it." My name on her house. I felt like the floor was tilting, not like I was fainting this time, but like I was finally seeing what was going on. I walked home like a ghost, my heart beating faster with every step. I started looking through old drawers, boxes, and envelopes, anything that might link me to something I never said yes to. And slowly I started to see the real story. It wasn't just about them not visiting me at the hospital. It wasn't just the $750. It was something way worse and older, a habit of using me without asking, making choices for me without telling me a word. And now it was all coming back to haunt her. I didn't know how bad the lie was yet, but I knew the collapse was a warning. What was coming next would be the end of it all. I didn't get any sleep that night. I just sat there on the floor of my place with piles of old mail, bank statements, and copies of papers I'd saved just to stay organized. I always believed that being the responsible one would keep me safe, but as I spread everything out, a cold thought hit me. Being responsible doesn't protect you from people who see it as an invitation to take more. The next morning I called out from work. My voice was barely holding together as I told my supervisor I needed one more day off. She didn't push me for details. She probably heard how fragile I sounded. I went right back to my emails looking for anything tied to Brianna. I found messages from years ago that I hadn't really paid attention to. There were notes like, "Quick, sign this and I'll explain later," and vague lines like, "You'll be helping us all." I remembered signing a few things back when I was in my early 20s, thinking it was no big deal and that I was just being a good daughter and a good sister. I never imagined those signatures would link me to a house I don't live in, a loan I didn't take out, and a mess I didn't even make. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Diane. "Send the 750 today. We are planning something important with Brianna. Don't make things difficult." That word important hurt more than the demand for money. Being important to them never meant being important to me. I transferred the cash anyway, but something felt different this time. It wasn't about doing what I was told or feeling guilty. It was the quiet realization of someone watching a bridge burn from the other side. Later that afternoon, I went to the small cafe near my apartment where I had talked to Martha. I sat by the window, playing her words back in my head, my name on a notice, Brianna avoiding home, paperwork problems, a loan gone bad. I pulled out my notebook and started listing everything I knew and everything I suspected. I wrote down every detail I had ignored because it was easier than believing the truth. The more I wrote, the clearer the truth became. They didn't just overlook me at the hospital. They had written me out of their lives a long time ago. I was just a utility to them, not a person. That realization didn't break me, it made me feel steady. I wasn't shaking with anger like before. That hot anger had turned into something solid, a boundary I was finally drawing for myself. I spent the next few days doing something I had never done, researching my own rights. I read about who is liable for a loan, what happens with unauthorized signatures and financial abuse. I found stories of people who trusted their families and ended up carrying debts that weren't even theirs. Every single story sounded just like mine. I sent an email to a legal aid service asking what a person should do if their name shows up on a loan they didn't knowingly agree to. The reply came back fast. Collect your proof, keep all communication in writing, do not sign anything else, and do not send any money related to the issue. The lawyer wrote, "Silence is not consent. You have more power than you think." I read that line over and over until it felt real. By the end of the week, I knew what I had to do. Not with screaming or fighting or trying to get revenge. My power was going to be in the one thing I had never used, my ability to say no. I stopped sending the $750. I didn't tell them why, I didn't explain, and I didn't argue, I just stopped. And almost immediately the tone of their messages changed. Diane's texts got mean and sharp. Stephen's texts were heavy with guilt. Brianna didn't message me at all. That silence told me everything. Something was falling apart on their end, and for the first time in my life I wasn't the one holding it together. I didn't know what they would do next, but I knew this. Whatever storm was coming, I was going to face it standing up. And for once, they were going to need something from me that I didn't owe them anymore. Months went by without that $750 leaving my bank account. Every week I didn't send it, my parents' messages got meaner. They sent things like, "Did something happen with your job? We raised you, you owe us, your sister is under so much pressure, stop being so selfish." I answered the exact same way every single time. "I can't send money anymore, I'm focusing on my health." I didn't give them a reason. I wanted them to be the ones to finally say the truth out loud. It happened on a really heavy, humid Saturday. Someone banged on my apartment door so hard my shelves actually shook. "Chloe, open up." It was Brianna's voice, sounding high and panicked. The old version of me would have rushed to help. This time I just set my grocery bag on the counter, took a breath, and walked to the door like I wasn't the one being attacked. When I opened it, she nearly fell inside. Her hair was a mess, she had mascara smudged under her eyes, and she smelled like old perfume and stress. "We need to talk," she snapped, already walking past me into my living room. I shut the door. "About what?" I asked. She spun around, holding a bunch of bent-up papers. "About the house, about you, you stopped sending the $750. What are you thinking?" I told her. "I already told Diane and Stephen. I can't keep paying for everyone else's life." She let out a nasty laugh. "Just because you fainted one time at work, you're not made of glass, Chloe. You scared everyone and you're fine, get over it." My pulse was thumping in my ears. "You mean the time the hospital called our parents and nobody showed up?" She rolled her eyes. "We had plans, you're not the center of everything." There was no apology, not even a fake one. "Why are you really here?" I asked for the first time. She hesitated for a second, then she pushed the papers toward me. "The mortgage company needs your signature," she said. "She said there was some mix-up with the original documents. Your name is on part of the loan. We're behind. If you sign and help with a payment, it'll get them off our backs. You're good with this stuff, you always help." I didn't even touch the papers. "You used my name on your loan." Her jaw got tight. "Diane said you agreed, you signed the forms years ago." I said, "I signed whatever you put in front of me without you explaining it. That's not agreeing, that's you taking advantage of the fact that I don't say no." Her nostrils flared. "You're being dramatic, this affects all of us. If I lose that house, where are Diane and Stephen supposed to go on Sundays? You want to destroy the family over a signature." My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Diane popped up. "Help your sister, it's your responsibility, don't embarrass us." Responsibility, embarrass, the same words they'd used to choke me for years. I picked up my phone, opened my photos, and went back to the day I collapsed. It only took a few swipes to find it. Her post, her smiling face between our parents at some restaurant, holding up glasses with half-eaten plates. The caption, "Family Day without the drama." I turned the screen around so she had to see it. For a second the room was totally quiet. She stared at the picture and then made a sound. "Oh my God, you're still hung up on a joke," I said. "That joke was posted while I was lying in a hospital bed. They had just told me nobody was coming." She looked away. "You always twist things, it was just a caption." I felt something finally click inside me. It wasn't about being mad or begging. It was just a decision. I hit the share button, sent the post to her in a message, and with my thumb over the keyboard, I typed it out slowly. I wanted every word to mean something. Then I read it out loud. No drama, no signature, no 750. Her head snapped up. What? I said quietly. You don't want drama? Great. Neither do I, so there's going to be no yelling, no guilt trips, and no more pretending I only exist when you need cash or a signature. No drama, no signature, no 750. Her face fell apart, then got hard again. If you don't sign, I could lose the house, she spat. Do you understand that people will find out? I'll look like an idiot. Diane and Stephen will never forgive you. I looked her in the eye. Maybe you should have thought about that before you used my name and my money like they were free. Tears came to her eyes. For a second I saw something that looked like fear. Please, she whispered, dropping the papers on my coffee table. Just sign. We'll fix the rest. You've always been the good one, don't stop now. I said, I'm not stopping, I'm finally being good to myself. She acted like I'd slapped her. You're going to regret this. When you're all alone and they're done with you, don't you dare call me. I told her, I've already been alone. You made sure of that the day you wrote that caption. She grabbed the door handle, then seemed to think about leaving the papers. She left them there like they might sign themselves if she slammed the door hard enough. She yanked the door open. Enjoy your little moment, she said. It won't last. Then she was gone. The sound of the door slamming stayed in the air. I stood there in the quiet, waiting to feel guilty. But I didn't. I looked at my phone. Her post was still on the screen. Family day without the drama. For the first time it didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a line I had finally drawn. And this time I was the one choosing who got left out. In the weeks after that, the silence from my family was louder than any fight we'd ever had. No more texts meant to make me feel bad, no more asking for 750, no more crazy calls acting like I owed them my life. Just quiet. And in that quiet I finally heard my own thoughts. A letter for Brianna came to my place by mistake. I didn't open it, but the logo on the envelope told me everything. Whatever she tried to keep together using my name was falling apart without it. And for once, nobody expected me to save them. I spent my nights cleaning my place, not because I had to, but because the space finally felt like it belonged to me. I bought food without worrying about how much money I'd have left after giving it away. I slept all night without checking my phone for emergencies that weren't mine to fix. I wasn't happy about them failing. I was just taking back the parts of my life I'd given away too easily. One morning, while drinking coffee by the window, I realized the world felt bigger and lighter. It was like I'd stepped out from under a shadow I hadn't even noticed until it was gone. For the first time, the future felt like it was mine. I still think about that day in the hospital. Sometimes I remember the tube in my arm, the empty door, and the silence where my family should have been. It used to hurt. Now it reminds me why I finally picked myself. Setting boundaries didn't ruin my family. It just showed what was already broken, and walking away wasn't leaving them. It was survival. If you've ever had to carry more than your share or loved people who only wanted you when they needed something, I hope my story gives you the okay to choose a different path. Share your own story in the comments and subscribe for